What's going on, guys? Welcome back to another episode of the Landscaping Podcast, powered by Landscaping Unlimited. I am your host, Zachary Small, and today we are talking about how nobody is coming to save you. Yes, you probably heard the message before, nobody's going to come save you, you got to take care of yourself. And in all reality, it's true. It's one of the most true things that's out there. We've got to take care of ourselves. If we're looking to have any sort of success in life, we've got to be able to be dependable upon who it is that we are, the connections that we made, and what it is that we're doing in our lives. Now, what does that have to do with Landscaping Unlimited and the green industry? Well, I'm going to shift this one a little bit towards small towns. We talk a lot about this being a people industry. Well, for it to be a people industry, you've got to get to know your people. And that is especially true when it comes to small towns. Now, we're operating out of an area like Bath, Belhaven, Pantego, Pinetown, kind of the outskirts of Washington. And you can head to the Greenville area. We've gone as far as Charlotte, Raleigh. We have traveled to some distances. But when you look at it, we are operating out of a small town in eastern North Carolina, or a few small towns. And if you put most of those towns together and you combine them all into one, you're still smaller than a lot of cities out there. And so when things happen, whether it be a man-made disaster or a natural disaster, we've got to step back and understand that all we have is ourselves. It is those relationships and it is those connections. Because the federal government, Big Brother, when things hit the fan, you're going to have to understand, there's a lot of people in cities they've got to take care of. There is a lot of immediate crimes and disasters and just pain and carnage that can happen when you've got a ton of people packed into a tight area, and they're not able to get places because of flooding, because of snow, because of storms, whatever it may be. So the government's got to go and take care of those people. There are a lot less people out here on the coast. There are a lot less people here, especially in the areas I'm talking about. When you look at Bath, you think the downtown areas, that's downtown Bath. Man, that's not a lot of people. There's not a lot going on there. And if you look at it, you understand that the people that are there, they know each other. They've been there for years, many of them. I'm sort of the new guy in Belhaven. I've been here for 4 years, but I'm finding my way and integrating myself mostly through sports, but through landscaping, through the schools. I found a way to connect with my people, and I love it. My family and I are very happy to be here. We love where we live, and we love the small town aspect, but we've got to understand that also means when shit hits the fan and things go down, all we have is each other. We've got to be able to rely on our neighbors. We've got to be able to look at those local companies, those local communities that we're a part of and be relying upon them for help. Because like I said, the government's not going to be sending their aid to us. They're not going to be sending their people to come help us out. We've got to help ourselves. That's the beauty of living in the small town. It's one of the reasons I moved here. I didn't want to be in the city because I don't want to be around all those people. I want quality over quantity. And that's what you get to see. So small towns, nobody's coming to save us. It's on us to save us. And that's why it's so important that you make those relationships. You start talking with people. You start engaging. You start volunteering and letting yourself be seen. And you start talking about things that you want to see improved. Shay and I are big on preparation and awareness. And we speak about this. We speak to it in Mighty Men. We speak about it on this podcast. We write about it on our blog. And we speak about it to our customers. Not only are we talking about hey, here's how you prepare your landscape. But it's hey, here's how you prepare yourself. Here's what's going to happen when this storm comes in. Here's what's going to happen when the flooding happens. And who's going to help clean all these things up? Well, it's good to have a landscaping company that's got a bunch of equipment, be it the power tools, but also the trucks. But when you've got all these people, you've got all these farmers, you've got all these men and women out here who are willing to lend a hand, we are the ones who are going to get ourselves back on our 2 feet. We are the ones that are going to help ourselves get back in business and get rolling again. It's already happened. This area's been hit by hurricanes in the past, heavy storms. We had some snow recently. And I shared the video. People kept saying, when I shared a video of us driving out to the work site where we were removing snow, they're like, you're crazy. You guys are crazy. I would never be out there. And we were just like, I understand. It was myself, Shay, my son, and Landon, another one of our employees. And we were all heading out there to remove snow. And some of our other guys were already out there. We had Ross and Tommy already on site, and they were scheduled to just get rolling once we got there, once the sun started to come up. And people were like, you guys are crazy. No, we're not crazy. Somebody has to be the one to go out there and do that. Somebody has to be willing to go out there and start the process of getting us back in motion and bringing businesses back to life. If we don't clear the parking lots, if we don't clear the sidewalks, there are certain people who cannot get into the store. Be it through handicap of mobility, or just be the fear. You're afraid everything's closed. You're not seeing anybody talk about anything being open. And so they lock themselves in. But when somebody says, hey, they plowed out the Publix, they plowed out the Food Line, they took care of downtown. When you hear those messages, you're like, all right, cool. It's safe to come out. It's safe to go out and do something again. And you've got to have companies that are doing that. And so when you look at this, when you look at that message, like nobody's coming to save you, it's not a negative. It's a lifestyle. It's who we are. It's what we have chosen to do. There's a reason that you live here, and you've got to hang on to that reason, because that reason is going to be the one that connects you when you have those thoughts of like, well, why do I live here? Why do I live so far, from big civilization, from the big cities? And it's like, you need that little reminder that you're doing this because it's the right thing to do. You need places like this. We need small town America. Not everything has to be busy and hustle and bustle and trying to rush through life. Like, this is all we've got when it comes to life. We've got to ensure that we're giving it our absolute best. And it doesn't matter. Oftentimes they talk about Belhaven and Bath having competition. Man, it doesn't matter when you're looking at all the small towns next to each other with their rivalries, because the reality is those other small towns are dealing with the same things as you. They're hardworking men and women. They're white collar and blue collar folks just trying to make it in the world. They're business owners. There's the youth trying to play their sports and learn in their schools. There's the teachers trying to take care of the kids. There's the volunteer firefighters out there doing their thing without even getting paid. There are all those individuals, everybody playing a role to make that town what it is. So it doesn't matter which small town you're from. Every small town can relate to this. Every small town is going through this same experience, which is trying to navigate the world and survive while looking out for their neighbors and ensure that they're playing their part to take care of this little ecosystem that we've got out here in Eastern North Carolina, where nobody else is going to be coming out here to save us. It is on us. There are many leaders in all of our communities who've stepped up, and they've put themselves in a position where they can help steer this ship to a better place. They can ensure that people are being taken care of. They can ensure that the youth is being protected. They can ensure that what we're doing is going out there and just being the absolute best that we can possibly be, given the resources that we have available to us. And that's what this is about. This is about small America. I'm not talking big businesses with big industries and big skyscrapers. I'm talking about the farmers, those that are in the quote unquote middle of nowhere. Those folks are some of the most resilient folks because they have learned how to survive in the middle of nowhere. And so when you're thinking about it, and you're reflecting on like, well, yeah, we really do have to rely on each other. Start thinking about whether you are being a part of that and making those connections yourself. Have you created some friends and some networks to where you've got people you can call if things go a little sideways? Like if things get weird, there's a lot of talk about war. There's a lot of talk about, global issues and national issues and things that are happening that are very violent in nature. Well, if that happens and comes to our doorstep, we're fortunate to live in America. But if it were to ever come to our doorstep, would we be prepared? And I would say in small town America, many would. Because many here are just looking out for themselves, they're looking out for their neighbors, and they're contributing to the greater cause, which is keeping this small town rolling and chugging along. And that goes for all small towns. And so when things get weird out in the city, like we barely see an impact. When things are going a little sideways, you're seeing people marching, you're seeing all these issues disrupting, the flow of society. We don't usually see that in our area because we're too busy working. We've got too much going on. We don't have time to stop and struggle and argue about, superfluous. I don't know how to say that word. Let's go with things that don't matter. Things that in the grand scheme do not matter. When you live in a small town, you've got to focus on what matters because that's all we've got going on. We've got to take care of our responsibilities and our duties. We don't have the luxury of complaining about things that don't concern us. We don't have the luxury of just sitting there staring at a wall, coming up with problems that we got to make up. We've got plenty of real problems we've got to face, and we face them and we handle them. But when we keep talking about this being a people business in the green industry, life is a people business. Life itself is about people. And so make sure that your people know that they're being seen, they're being heard. Make sure that you're connecting, going out in the world. Don't think that you've got to go at life alone. You don't got to sit there and be like, well, man up. You're a man. You got to do it by yourself. Dude, I can tell you right now, I am a man and I reach out to people all the time. I'm always looking for help. I'm always looking to be better. I'm always asking questions. And all the dudes who are like, I'm a tough guy. I don't need that. That's just weak. Okay. You'll be the first one struggling, the first one failing. And it's like these men would rather fail in spite, just to spite not having to ask for help, not having to build relationships or open up. Because relationships do require you to open up. And in a small town where everybody knows everybody, sometimes opening up can be a difficult thing. Because again, word travels faster than like light. I've seen it. I've witnessed it. Like, I get it. I fully understand. But I also want to remind you, even with the nature of small town, everybody knowing everybody's business, that's almost a beautiful part of it. They know you. They see you. It's okay to open up to them and to let them be aware of like what it is that you need, what it is that you can contribute. If you've got some weaknesses, share them so you can toughen them up. If you've got some strengths, talk about how you contribute that to the greater good of that small town. Because again, at the end of the day, small towns, nobody's coming to save us. We are on our own. We've got to find a way to make this work. And so at the Landscaping Podcast and the landscape industry at large, there are a lot of landscapers in small towns looking to do their best to beautify their community and serve and provide a service to everyone within that community to ensure their properties are taken care of, their water problems or their land problems are solved. They're doing their best to provide that quality service. And it's different in big businesses. It's different in big cities. I wouldn't say big businesses. In the bigger cities, the problems they have are unique. The challenges they have are unique. They're going to be different than what we're facing. They're still there. They still do the same thing that we're doing, but I would say in a small town, it's just a little bit different. You know your landscaper a little bit better. And so it's my hope that you start to get to know your landscapers through Landscaping Unlimited a little bit better through this podcast. And you understand that when things go south or they get a little weird and go a little sideways, we will be there for our community. It is one of the most important things to us. Again, Shay and I speak frequently about preparation, for our families. And we talk more than just home defense. Guns are cool. Food storage and rations, those are cool. Water source, that's all cool. But also going out there and protecting your own, looking out for others, preventing suffering because you're able to help and provide a hand, getting people out of situations that might not be ideal for them. When a tree falls, when flooding happens, when things go sideways, your lawn gets piled up with trash. Like you want someone that can come in and help you out, especially the elderly and especially the youth, those who need a little bit more help. We will show up. But there are plenty of individuals out there who don't fall into the category of being old or being young that also need help. And we will be there for them as well. Because at the end of the day, that's what all of this is about. It's about our small town sticking together. It's about us realizing that we are all we've got. And so we've got to make sure that we are looking to our left and to our right and not just looking up at what's going on or what the distraction is on the TV. We got to look at the people that are around us because that's what this is. All the memories that we have, all the engagements that we have, all the discussions and, things that we're going out and doing, the concerts that are being put on, the sporting events, all those things, that's us. That's this little small group of towns on the eastern side of North Carolina that are doing what it is we need to do to survive, to connect, and to thrive. And so after this episode, I want you to think about that. Where can you connect with others? How can you go out there and put your name out there to provide a service and be the best that you can be? You guys stay well, and thank you for tuning in to another episode on the Landscaping Podcast.